The UK government's decision to proceed with the transfer of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius is not just a policy move. It is a reckless surrender of sovereignty, a betrayal of British interests, and a monumental financial misstep that will burden taxpayers for decades. This deal, which has been negotiated behind closed doors, prioritizes diplomatic expediency over national security and the fiscal welfare of British citizens. And it is difficult to overstate how catastrophic this decision could prove to be for Britain in the long run. Let's be clear, the Chagos Islands are not just some obscure patch of land in the middle of the Indian Ocean. They are strategically crucial, serving as a vital military base for the UK and, more importantly, for NATO and global security. The islands provide the West with a foothold in a region of increasing geopolitical importance. To simply hand them over to Mauritius, without any clear and substantial gain for Britain, is an affront to the interests of the British people. This decision should not be justified with lofty promises of strengthening international relationships or respecting the will of the Mauritian people. Those arguments fall apart when faced with the hard, cold reality of what this transfer will cost and what it risks losing. First, there is the matter of cost. The financial implications of this deal are staggering. The UK is set to pay a £9 billion price tag, a sum that will be front-loaded to Mauritius. This is money that could be better spent on domestic priorities, from funding the NHS to alleviating the burden on our overstretched public services. At a time when UK citizens are feeling the strain of increasing taxes, cuts to social benefits, and a cost of living crisis, the government's decision to effectively waste taxpayer money on a foreign land deal is unforgivable. What is even more galling is that the cost of this handover has not been transparently addressed in the recent budget, as Tory MP Joe Robertson rightly pointed out in the Commons. Where is this money coming from? And why has it not been fully disclosed to the public? The British taxpayer is entitled to know how their money is being spent, and this government owes them an explanation. But the financial implications are only part of the story. The loss of the Chagos Islands represents a weakening of Britain's strategic position at a time when global tensions are rising. As the UK faces mounting threats from adversaries like Russia and China, the need for strong military bases in critical regions cannot be overstated. The Chagos Islands, with their vital airstrip and intelligence-gathering capabilities, serve as a cornerstone of Western military power in the Indian Ocean. To relinquish that territory is to give up an essential asset without any tangible return on investment for Britain's security. It is an act of self-sabotage wrapped in the guise of diplomacy. Moreover, this deal casts serious doubts on the UK's commitment to its overseas territories and its role in global security. If we are willing to cede such a strategically important location to a foreign nation, what message does that send to other countries and territories that rely on Britain for protection and security? Does the UK truly have the will to maintain its global influence, or is it content to play the role of a secondary power, handing away assets when it is convenient? The decision to abandon the Chagos Islands, a symbol of British power and influence, undermines the very notion of the UK as a global leader in security and defence. This is not just about losing a bit of land. It's about undermining Britain's ability to project power and protect its interests. This is a failure of leadership at the highest level, and it will be the British public who ultimately bears the cost. And what of the political implications? Labour's enthusiastic support for this deal, while making sweeping promises to right historical wrongs, is nothing more than a cynical attempt to win favour in the international community. What the Labour Party fails to address, however, is the true cost of these so-called moral decisions. Priti Patel, in her sharp condemnation of Labour's stance, was right to point out the hypocrisy of a party that seems all too willing to throw away British interests for the sake of political expediency. At a time when the UK is grappling with soaring inflation, economic instability, and a national security threat from abroad, Labour's call to surrender the Chagos Islands, without a clear understanding of the financial and strategic consequences, reveals a party more concerned with virtue signalling than with protecting the long-term interests of the British people. But it is not just Labour's position that is problematic. The Tory government's own handling of the negotiations and the lack of transparency around the deal are deeply concerning. Foreign Office Minister Stephen Doughty's attempt to brush off questions about the deal's costs and timing is nothing short of evasive. To claim that the details will be provided in due course is a dismissal of the serious scrutiny that this deal deserves. The British public is owed a thorough explanation, not vague assurances. This government cannot simply sweep such a monumental decision under the rug and hope it will go unnoticed. The decision to cede the Chagos Islands is not just a mistake, it is a betrayal of Britain's strategic, economic, and security interests. The financial cost, the loss of military significance, and the broader implications for the UK's global standing are too great to ignore. If this deal proceeds, it will not only be a failure of government, it will be a failure of national leadership. This is a deal that must be stopped before it is too late.